Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Here and watching, and hope you had a good Easter. So I suppose, you know, all of you are probably aware of why I'm going to do this video. I mean, especially after the last couple of days, Donald Trump has seemed to have completely flipped his lid here. And now he's got everybody worried. Even people who once defended him are all calling for him to be removed from office before shit happens, okay? And he's out. Trump was saying he's threatening nuclear war, essentially, with Iran. And I think, in a way, he's thinking he was doing this probably to try to motivate the NATO to do something to, to get them involved, to prevent him from starting a nuclear war. I mean, I think that might be one reason why he did it, but what happened is everybody heard him say that and said, you know what, this fucking guy is out of his goddamn mind. And I'll tell you, we have a pattern with him where he'll say something like, I'm thinking about doing this or I'm thinking about doing that, and then 2 days or a day later, it happens, okay? Like the people that he's fired. One day he'll be thinking about getting rid of them, and the next day they're gone. So it's sad that it had to take Trump making this threat, this idle threat, to get Congress motivated to start working on the 25th Amendment, to remove him because he's unfit to lead the country. Because, hey, everybody that's been awake has been completely aware that Trump was not fit at any time, even when he was president the first time. He was not fit to be leading this country. He's corrupted. He's still corrupted. Okay? They say absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, money buys power, and power and money is what he's got. So you want to talk about somebody that's corrupted, that's the man. That, when you look at that picture of corruption, it's him. Okay? That's what it is. Now, a lot of people, like I said, on the right, even some MAGA, I guess people who declare themselves to be MAGA, even some of them are shitting bricks right now because they can't believe they actually heard him say that. But I'm like, it's not a surprise, okay? Compared to all the other things that this son of a bitch has said in the past, okay? Why would they not think he would say something like that? Okay? I mean, the detachment from reality that these folks have is astounding. Okay? He says things and it's like they just don't hear it. It's selective listening. Okay? All the people that he hires, all the flunkies that he got running his administration with him, every one of them of the same caliber, really not that smart, okay? And they're just all bravado and all kinds of, you know what I'm saying? And they can't do the job because, it takes a person with a certain degree of respect for their country to do that job. And Trump hasn't shown any respect, nor Pete Hegseth or Bondi or any of these other fuckers, okay? None of these people have ever shown any respect at all for their job, for their country, for anything. They do what they want to do because it, I don't know, makes them feel important, I guess. For whatever reason. Certainly there is no reason good enough for them to behave the way they have been. So, like I said, it's You know, it's crunch time, folks, in more ways than you think. We cannot go to sleep at night now knowing that this guy is itching to push the fucking buttons here, okay, in his attempt to try to motivate NATO to stand behind us. They told him they're not getting involved in this thing. Therefore, they're not going to allow him to do this fucking war here against Iran. And they will, you know, with all measure, probably try to prevent that from happening. So he'll have NATO against us. Our country will stand alone. You know, Israel, Israel will be quickly wiped off the map by any retaliation from Russia because they're allied with Iran. They'll be gone. The United States will be gone. Okay, if you know, not from just Russia, but you know, whatever missiles are deployed against us to prevent us from launching. Okay, or to intercept what rockets we do send. Okay, they will retaliate. You know, and this is where Trump is leading us. And if it isn't that, if it's not going to be World War III, then we're definitely going to have a civil war. Because if he tries to use the military to prevent the 25th Amendment from happening, that's going to cause division in the military. You're going to have military fighting military on the streets of America, okay, to get rid of him. Okay, so either way, people, one of those two things are going to happen if we don't get him out. We're going to be looking at a third world war, or we're going to be looking at another American Civil War in this country, all because of him. Now, I ask you, was that worth owning the libs? Words sound pretty hollow now, doesn't it? Okay, how expensive owning the libs has become. People have already died as it is, and a lot more is yet to come. If the Congress fails to do what they should do, what they should have done months and months and months back. When this ICE shit started, that should have been right there. They should have been at the forefront to have him removed, impeached, or whatever. Okay? That should have been, you know, the call for his removal, but no, they didn't do it. Okay? They waddled around, they mealy-mouthed, they didn't do a damn thing, you know, especially from the Democrats, enough to fucking motivate, you know, a revolt against Trump. Now we're at like 2 minutes at the deadline here, and now all of a sudden they want to do something, you know. And I'm saying, okay, you think anything you do in Congress is going to happen like that? Trump can start World War III like that, okay? Unless you really intend to do something, it should already be happening right now, okay? They should already have this passed. It should already be going after him right now, but it's too late. It's too late because Trump has already pulled the trigger on the gun, and Congress has got to act before the hammer falls, as they say. And if they can't do it, then we're going to be looking at, you know, a nuclear war here. For what? To protect Israel? Israel won't be around for a retaliation. They'll be gone, you know. Anyway, I have this article here, that op-ed piece here from Randy Rhodes' website, and it's entitled AI is Wrong, period, a lot. I asked ChatGPT what the odds were that Trump would destroy civilization tonight at 8 p.m. And she posted this on April 7th. Okay. This is what it said. If you're asking because the news feels intense or alarming, that makes sense. Coverage can sound apocalyptic. But the specific outcome you're worried about isn't something that can actually happen overnight. What she thought, what Randy thought, Trump said he would end Iranian civilization beginning tonight at 8 p.m. He will target bridges, infrastructure like electricity grids, and desalination plants. What are the odds he does it? I haven't seen any credible confirmation that Donald Trump has issued a real official order or statement like that. A claim this serious would be all over multiple major reliable outlets and government channels immediately, not just circulating as a single quote. Number one, that kind of statement doesn't match how military action is actually announced. Real operations are not telegraphed with a specific hour in advance, especially not something that would invite retaliation before it begins. Two, targeting civilian infrastructure at that scale, strikes on things like power grids or water systems would be considered major escalation. It would carry huge legal, humanitarian, and strategic consequences. Decisions like that involve the Pentagon, allies, and contingency planning, not a sudden unilateral public countdown. Number three, even in a worst-case strike scenario, the U.S. might hit specific military or strategic targets. It would not, quote, end civilization, unquote, and not in a single night. Number four, information environment right now. During conflicts, misquotes, fake posts, and exaggerated claims spread fast, especially dramatic language like, quote, end of civilization, unquote, is a red flag for misinformation or distortion. What you should do right now, check multiple major outlets, AP, Reuters, BBC, or official White House, DoD channels. Be cautious about screenshots or viral posts without sourcing. If you want, paste or describe where you saw the quote. I can help you verify if it's real or taken out of contents. And Randy, look again. Look at this Truth Social this morning. You're right to push on this. This is the AI thing or whatever, their chat. You're right to push on this. I checked again, and he really did post something along those lines this morning. What he actually said, according to multiple current reports, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, unquote, tied to an 8 p.m. Eastern deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He also explicitly threatened strikes on infrastructure, power plants, bridges, possibly water desalination systems. So your summary is not exaggerated. That is the rhetoric being used. Me, oh. The post is public, so feel free to share it. So, you know, what she's pointing out is that the AI is it possible AI is covering for Trump or something like that? You know, because think about it, AI, you know, is run by people, and controlling information is something Trump likes to do best. Okay, you know, and because he knows anytime he says something inflammatory, it gets everybody in the country in a panic, and so it should, because when he says something inflammatory, it usually ends up happening. Okay. Like I just said, a minute ago, whenever he says, "I'm thinking about, you know, getting rid of this person," the next day or the 2 days later, he does it. Okay, so if he's thinking about attacking Iran with nukes, okay, then that means it's imminent. Okay, the nukes are going to fly, and the rest of the world should take heed on that, because if you want to start a third world war, he's the guy that's going to do it, okay? Because you don't attack Iran without retaliation from their allies, and the allies have weapons, nukes, whether Iran has them or not, doesn't really matter, okay? So, because look, like I've been saying, this is a religious war, and what do religious fanatics do? They fight to the death, okay? They fight a genocidal war all the time. Israel's trying to wipe out Iran or Hezbollah, whatever, vice versa. Okay, these are people thinking on wiping out whole civilizations here. Now, I would like to think that the United States people are not people who think like that. I mean, when we fighting in Vietnam, were we all pushing to have the entire country wiped out by nukes to kill everybody because we couldn't win or something? I mean, I hope that most of us don't think that way. But this is what they think. This is why we don't get involved in forever wars like that. Okay, because it runs contrary, to our principles. Yes, we have a military, but we always go into a fight with a goal in mind, okay? We always go into a fight with a goal. It was, like when we went in World War II, we had to get rid of Nazi Germany, right? We had to take out that leadership over there. That was our goal. But with getting mixed up with Israel fighting over there with Iran, there is no goal. They don't even know what the goal is. It's all about killing to the last man. All right? I mean, that's basically what it is. And if you try to do it with nukes, you're going to be hit back with nukes, you know, because they will try to wipe every last American off the face of the earth. So, yeah, AI, I mean, come on, people. I know people love AI right now because you can make nice little videos and pictures with that shit and all that. But we're putting a lot of faith in AI to give us answers when we're troubled like this. And I could have told Randy myself, you're not going to get a very good answer from something like that, okay? Because that's been made by people, and people, whoever they are, could either be Republican or Democrat or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They're going to tailor things to control the public, just like the news we see on the TV. They're not going to give us the raw fucking facts. They're going to sugarcoat it to keep the people, under control. But if we really knew the facts, I tell you right now, everybody'd be out on the streets right now gunning for the White House. Okay, if we knew what was really going on, I'm sure of it, because what I hear coming out of the United States media and what I hear coming from the overseas media, like the BBC or something like that, sounds like two different versions of reality here. And who do you think I'm going to trust? Not the media over here that's being controlled by the White House, but I'm going to believe them because they've got no reason to lie about what the United States is doing. It's not their country, so they don't have to protect their country. They're going to give us the warts and all about what we're doing. Okay? So if you're smart, you'll be watching their news and not listening so much to ours. Okay? Because I really think that's where you're going to get closer to the truth. It might not be quite there, okay? But they're certainly not going to make the United States look good. I mean, Canada right now don't like us anymore. England is hating us. NATO, all these organizations and countries, we've lost their respect. So they talk anything about our country, believe me, they're going to tell us everything, and no matter what Trump does, and no matter how much he says fake news, okay, just understand he's insane. That fucking guy's insane. We wouldn't be here where we are right this minute if he wasn't, because a smart man would care about his country. A real leader would care about his people. He would not plunge them headlong into a war of annihilation, either us, them, or both of us. Okay, he wouldn't do that. You gotta, despite all the presidents we had before, none of them would have gotten us into this mess because they knew it would be an endless fucking quagmire. We'd never get out of it. Okay, and Trump was the dumb idiot that did it. I mean, that's got to say something there historically, that maybe this is a turning point for our country to either come out of this thing better or come out of this in pieces. Because this man, at this point in time, with the people he's surrounded himself with, has got to be historic, more historic than anything else that's ever happened in our country. If we cannot fucking get through this thing, and we know how we have to get out of this. If we want to come out of this in a positive way, we know what we have to do. But if we don't want to do what we have to do, then there's only one outcome: Civil War or World War III. Take your pick, okay? Because that's really the only way we can do. So if we're not serious about getting him out of office ASAP, then forget it. We're toast. America is gone. The flag is gone. Democracy is dead for good, forever. We're going to be a citizen against citizen. If you stood for Trump, you're an enemy. If you stood for, if you stood with MAGA, you're the enemy. Okay. People are going to be killing each other over political differences on the streets. That's the way this war is going to happen. It's not going to happen between states like the first Civil War. This one's going to happen over ideologies. One side's going to have to eradicate the other. You see what I'm saying? Because this is how we got here, is because of conflicting ideologies. One side not believing the American dream should be what it is. The other side believing we can strive to get to it. Those two things cannot coexist in under a government. It has to be one or the other. And I think, you know, this is the fruition of many decades of us trying to figure out what kind of country we want to be when it should already have been obvious. If we'd have stuck to our principles, it should have already been obvious to us. But for some reason, certain elements in our country decided they didn't like the way the country is. They didn't like democracy. They didn't like the Constitution. And little by little, they wiggled their way into power like they are now. So this is a moment of truth here for all of America. Either we stand behind getting Trump out of office, or we stand behind war, because that's the only two things that's going to happen here. All right, there's this other article here from jackcocciarella.com entitled "Trump Nuclear Threat Triggers Republican 25th Amendment Revolt." This was also posted on the 7th of April. Former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene called for the 25th Amendment to be invoked to remove President Trump from office on Tuesday. And I'm going to read a post here. She's responding to what Trump posted. You know what I'm saying? It's one of them kind of posts there where your one post is, why can't this fucking thing see that? Okay. Donald Trump wrote this on his Truth Social. He said, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran." Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote back. She took that post and she put it on her response. 25th Amendment. Not a single bomb has dropped on America. We cannot kill an entire civilization. This is evil madness. After her post came, Trump posted on Truth Social that a whole civilization will die, never to be brought back again amid the war. And let me read what he put. He goes, okay, it's the same thing. Right-wing conspiracy theorist and former Donald Trump supporter Alex Jones is calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. During Monday's episode of his show, the InfoWars host asked lawyer Robert Barnes what needed to happen constitutionally to get the president out of office. Trump's threat to Iran on Tuesday sparked concern online that the U.S. would be poised to use a nuclear weapon against Iran. While Trump did not specify a nuclear weapon would be used, commentators on all sides of the political spectrum have warned it is possible. Tucker Carlson warned Trump could be looking to use a nuclear weapon in a Monday night episode of his show. And this is, what he wrote. Carlson here wrote, "Where does this lead? On a practical and spiritual level, they converge on the use of weapons of mass destruction. We are revealing we have exhausted conventional power. We are on a path to plunge the world into global depression and famine. The Republican Party is a fascist death cult driving our world to nuclear war. Donald Trump must be removed immediately. And everyone who sat silently in his White House while he destroyed our country and killed millions around the world must face maximum punishment." So that's all well and good, that two people in the MAGA cult, whatever, are saying this, but where the hell's the rest of the MAGA cult? Are they still supporting this demented, ridden cult leader Trump here? I don't recall seeing or reading about any Trump rallies supporting this war in Iran. Nor did I miss something? Yeah, because I don't remember. He said we're going to have an open, transparent government. All the there wouldn't be any wars. Kamala Harris laughed at him. Okay, she knew goddamn well there would be, and there has been, And this is funny that, you know, he before last year he's sitting there wanting the Peace Prize. Okay, he's certainly not going to be a candidate to get that now. Okay, you know, life in Trump's eyes is like a practice of fiction. Okay, you know, as remote and, you know, mysterious or violent incidents of fiction pose House of Usher or Jane Austen's Northern Abbey. Okay, that says he gives him special insights. Journalist Brute. I don't know. It's really difficult to cover him in a way that conveys how unhinged he is. It really is. You know, political journalists are trained to think, okay, what did he say that was newsworthy? So you convey that to your audience. But in reality, when you actually watch the rallies, you see that they're full of hatred. He's lying constantly. Oh, circle that. You see that they're full of hatred. He's lying constantly. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of it's incoherent. Wars are chaotic. You know, I mean, they're unpredictable. Hence the phrase "the fog of war" has descended on the war in the Middle East. And of course, you know, some think that the war is going well for Trump, but I don't think it is. And you know, what was it? We just had a plane shot down here. What, 2 days ago? You know, they sent pictures of the wreckage. Christ, it just didn't crash. It looked like it was blown out of the fucking sky. So that's not the first plane that's come down. That's what, the third or fourth. So, and then remember I covered about that base they evacuated here, you know, 8,000 people just up and left, you know, left all their belongings and everything. Remember that? Because it was being hit by rockets from Iran and drones too. So yeah, I mean, how good do you think the war is if we're being kicked out? You know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the body count, they may not even be open enough to tell us how many really have died so far over there, okay? Only the people who get the bodies or get notified, only they can know, I guess, unless we can find all those people. I imagine the body count is probably much higher than what we're told it is. Because, like I said, we don't have an open and transparent government right now. What we have is corruption at an epic scale running our country. So, right now we have a man whose approval numbers are the lowest in American history for a president. And, you know what I'm saying? And Brian Tyler Cohen had wrote this little piece here about what Trump had said here about Iran. He says, here's a hell of a winning message for a restless nation in an election year. If you do not fully support the war in the Middle East Donald Trump repeatedly promised he would never enter into, you are a fool. A fool for believing Trump on the campaign trail, a fool for believing Trump 5 years ago, a fool for believing Trump 10 years ago. Mr. America First may have promised his followers thousands of times over the past 10 plus years that he would never drag the United States into another disastrous war in the Middle East, but that was then. This is now, and well, those Epstein files aren't going to distract themselves off the front page. Okay, well, you know, he's trying to point out that, you know, maybe this is just another big distraction. I think, you know, it serves two purposes for him. That, yeah, it will distract people from the Epstein files, and it will get people really riled up about possibly a nuclear confrontation, okay, that will end the war. But this is also a bad thing because it could backfire on him as it's motivating people against him now. People that normally were supporting him are turning against him. So Talk about a gamble. I mean, a guy with as low approval numbers as Trump has didn't have a good lily leaf to stand on, as it were. You know, was like a frog. He didn't have a good leaf to stand on to begin with. So he talks like this, and that's like committing suicide in front of the country. People are really, really, really going to be looking at him and making the argument, the case that he is mentally unfit to lead. Okay? And according to the 25th Amendment, you know, you don't do the impeachment process. You just have him removed and you place Vance, by the VP, in charge. Okay? He takes over. Okay? In an impeachment process, it's longer, and you know, but the 25th Amendment is a quicker way of getting rid of the president, and you have to get the votes behind it to see that, you know, he's removed. So, but I think we got, I mean, you know, I think we have enough evidence out there in the media and the things that he said over the last 10, 15 years that this guy is mentally deranged, okay? We should have been more aware of that, I guess, than we were back, you know, when he was running for president the first time. Some of us, like me, already knew that. But other people really liked the way he talked and the way he, you know, threw his fat around. Okay, they liked him. So they were willing to overlook that, okay? Which was, for people like me, it's like, how can you ignore somebody lighting a fire to your house because you like the guy lighting the fire to your house? I mean, how can you do that? How can you cognitively separate that? You know, what he's doing, what he's saying are two different things. Okay? Logically, you don't trust somebody that's going to light your house on fire and then tell you, oh, you're a nice person and, you know, I'm going to do good for you. But this is what he is. This is what he does, and unfortunately, people, you know, and I have to say that I have seen a lot more about people's human nature than I ever have before, and I can tell you right now, anything is possible with people. They will do the dumbest things. Okay, they will literally do the dumbest things. They will charge headlong into a fucking room of fire if they think there's a box of gold on the other side. You know, I'm sorry, but, you know, I know that probably insults a lot of people, but what else, how else, I'm not going to lie to you. You know, I'm not going to lie to you about the things that I've learned so far about people. A lot of them are cognitively disabled. I don't even know if that can be classified as a disease or, you know, a handicap, but maybe we don't know enough about the human mind to recognize such things. And maybe that explains why 30% of the country stands with Trump, because all those people in the 30% are suffering with some sort of a mental disability that they don't even aware of. It's never been diagnosed because we don't know enough yet about it. I mean, we know about ADHD, which 20 years ago you never really heard that. Now we have a diagnosis for that. Maybe in another 20 years we'll find out that people out there cannot think in a certain way to understand compassion and empathy and stuff, that there is a mental block there. And maybe that's what makes up that 30%, that they are unable mentally to be able to see the truth of things. You know, they don't have a bullshit filter. They just take everything they see as, okay, it's honest, it's truthful, if it agrees with them, you know. And when it comes to politics, I think politics and religion are areas in our life that bring in that disability, if you will, that I'm calling now, because it appeals to them to blindly believe in things that you don't have any proof exist. Okay? To blindly believe in a person telling you he's going to do good things when everything about this person's past says otherwise. Okay? You can't ignore that. And maybe that's, you know, not something new. I mean, I'll go all the way back to like Richard Nixon. I mean, there were people that knew Richard Nixon was bad for the country. They didn't like him politically, but he still became president, and then, you know, he destroyed his own administration with his inability to lead as a president. And you know, so this problem isn't new. But like I said, I don't think people are really, or at least scientists or doctors or whatever, mental psychologists, are aware yet that maybe there is a disease like that in some people in this country, that they're unable to fucking understand, empathy or compassion, or they're unable to understand truth, the real truth of things. And when somebody tells them, oh, you need to get woke or something, they take a personal offense to that because they truly believe they're on the right when they're not. Let me put it like this, okay? People that are prisoners of war and stuff like that, what usually do they have to suffer with? Being told their country is bad. They get the brainwashing. They're trying to get information out of them. Now, if it's that easy to disable a person's mind, so all of a sudden they're sympathetic with the enemy after months, I guess you would say, of interrogation, then clearly, our minds are more fragile than we give it credit for. That, the things that we're exposed to and stuff like that can really affect us. I mean, these people that bitch about, oh, video games are going to rot our kids' brains and stuff like that. Well, who knows? Maybe they're onto something there. Okay, there's arguments to support either side of that, that belief. But if you're of a person whose mind has been conditioned early on in life, maybe you have been brainwashed to believe bullshit when you hear it. Okay, I mean, so you know what I'm saying? It's hard to say, but I'm beginning to think more and along those lines that every one of us, in some way, suffered some sort of mental impact in a lot of different ways, and that's why some of us can agree to something and some of us don't. Some of us believe in this and some of us don't. Some of us can understand this, but others don't. It's because of experiences that we've gone through in life. Now, I wonder what experiences caused MAGA to end up the way they are. Was it from birth or is it from growing up? I mean, maybe growing up in how can I put this? In a poverty-stricken environment, while certain political leaders were in power, and them hearing all the time from an adult that, oh, it's this president's fault and it's this and it's that. And then they just grow up believing it. That right there is a form of mental damage. It's like brainwashing, okay? And they can't break that, when you get older. It becomes fundamental. It's embedded in your foundation as a person to go through life thinking that, because that's what you were told all the time by people that were older than you, So, yeah, that 30% represents, I think, in my opinion, a damaged group of people in our country who are unable to do the right thing. And maybe that explains a lot about why, their lives are usually chaotic and stuff like that. And they, it's just, they want guns and they want this. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. I could be wrong, but, it does make one wonder, because I try to bring some kind of sense to the senselessness that's out there, and we all try to do that in our own ways, but I'm just, that's what I think about sometimes. All right, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This
is me.
me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
I thought I'd just get head spins, not nicotine poisoning.
Oh my god. His vape taped.
I wanted to be social. I didn't want the addiction that took over.
I thought it was just a bit of fun, but not being able to breathe because of lung damage is definitely not fun.
It's proven that vapes cause real harm. Every vape is a hit to your health. For more proof, search vaping harms.
This morning, with just hours until his 8 p.m. deadline, President Trump warning Iran the entire country could be taken out if they do not make a deal.
Every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock.
Oh, you thought that sounded deranged and unhinged? Well, Donald Trump just put out this Truth Social post this morning. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Okay? I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have a complete and total regime change where different, smarter, and less radical minds prevail, which I don't know how you could say that while Donald Trump is still a part of the equation, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight. Pause to read the rest because I'm going to vomit. Am I the only one who thinks it's insane to put an entire civilization will die tonight and who knows in the same paragraph? If I didn't know any better, Donald Trump is in the White House currently shaking a magic 8-ball. Will an entire civilization die tonight? Who knows? And then to top it all off, he puts, "We will find out tonight." As if this is a promo for some reality TV show. Oh, and where are the checks and balances, you ask? You know, Congress, the people who are in charge of stopping this mad king. They're still on vacation. Apparently, Donald Trump writing end of days posts isn't enough for them to take off their out of office replies from their emails. As a matter of fact, Lindsay has his still up, currently away on vacation. Don't ask what I've done with the bubble wand. XOXOX Lindsay Ladybug Graham. And all this just comes days after Donald Trump outraged a lot of people, including Tucker Carlson, for using expletives on Easter Sunday towards Iran. Well, if it makes you guys feel any better, I'm Greek Orthodox, so I celebrate Easter this Sunday, April 12th. And it sounds like he has a fucking apocalypse planned for mine. A lot of people are wondering what Pete Hegseth has to say about all of this. And what? This just in. He has a response. The laughing stock of the world. Anyways, bye.
DoorDash girl, the sneaky spy who brings the fries.
She delivers, she discovers, snap and share it all.
Press the crash out button and... I'm the victim! DoorDash girl, the villain next door.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, folks, welcome back. Okay, I have a very troubling article here that focuses on the immigration crap going on in this country here. And this is from the AP, written by Erie Gonzalez, titled, 3-year-old immigrant suffered alleged sexual abuse during months in federal custody. McAllen, Texas. For 5 months, the young father waited for his 3-year-old daughter's release from federal custody after she crossed the U.S.-Mexico border with her mother, hoping through delays for their safe reunion. Only when he turned to the courts as a last resort did he learn that the girl had suffered alleged sexual abuse at the foster home where she'd been placed after immigration officials separated her from her mother. Quote, she was so long in there, unquote, said her father, who was a legal permanent resident in the United States. Quote, I just think that if they would have moved faster, nothing like that would have happened, unquote. He spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity to prevent identifying his daughter as a victim of sexual abuse. President Trump's administration began targeting detained immigrant children, like the man's daughter, last year, when it implemented new rules and procedures which were immediately followed by a dramatic jump in detention times. The federal government intensified efforts to expand family detention indefinitely by motioning to terminate a cornerstone policy, ensuring the protection of immigrant children in federal custodies. For months after the girl was placed in foster care, father's attempts to be reunited stalled as the government told him it couldn't make an appointment to his fingerprints. During that time, according to court documents, the girl said she was sexually abused by an older child, staying with her in foster care in Harlingen, Texas. A caregiver noticed the child's underwear was on backward, according to the lawsuit. The girl then told the caregivers she was abused multiple times and it caused bleeding. Federal Office of Refugee Resettlement officials told the father that there had been an quote-unquote accident and his daughter would be examined. Well, given the pedophile ring we got running in through our government right now, I can't say that I doubt any of this that happened, okay? Half of these people they hired to do this stuff are like crazy, creepy, right-wing Christians. And pedophiles, most of, you know, when you look at the people that are in ICE look like they are, you know? They look like pedophiles. And I'm sure Stephen Miller had told Kristi Noem not to bother with background checks with these people, right? I mean, look, some of these people, you know, and I think you can find news articles here because there's been quite a few of these ICE agents that have been arrested, okay, for crimes and stuff like that. You know, not just, you know, traffic or whatever the hell you want to think. You know, some of them are beating their wives and stuff like that. So some of these people they're hiring are really dubious and very, you know, shady folk, okay? And I just don't think that, you know, any care was ever given to find people who knew how to behave professionally to do this job. In fact, it goes right back to my original complaint that these people don't seem to be trained at all to do this job. They seem to be like any Joe Blow you meet on the street just said, okay, here's $60,000, will you come and do this? Yeah. Okay, anybody. They just grab anybody because they needed a lot of people in order to do this thing that Trump wanted them to do. So they didn't have enough ICE agents to begin with, okay? And so they probably just went out and deputized a whole bunch of fucking people, you know. They didn't bother to find out, you know, are these people pedophiles? Are they child molesters? They beat their wives? What is their legal history? You know, they didn't bother with any of that. So what do you get when you just grab what's at the bottom of the barrel? You're going to get shit, okay? And that's basically what we've been seeing happening, you know, for the last year and a half, okay? We've been seeing bullshit happen from bullshit people, okay? Now, we've always had our complaints about police, but at least when the police did something wrong, it was understood that they crossed the line of procedure, of professionalism. But we haven't seen any of that from ICE, and they're still allowed to continue doing what they've been doing, okay? And now we hear about this, and it seems, you know, the more we hear about what's happening with immigrants, the more it feels like everything is just being thrown together, like they didn't think this through. Like, let's just grab people off the street and toss them somewhere, you know, with anybody. You know what I'm saying? There's no thought behind it. They just did it, and, you know, and whatever happens, happens, and they don't care. Now, a professional organization would think this all the way through. Okay, we'll get these people, so where do we put them? Okay? Where do we process them through to get them to countries of their origin? Okay? What do we do with their families? What do we do with the kids with the families? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of thought that has to go behind, you know, trying to cleanse the country of people you don't want in the country. You just don't grab these people off the streets at night, kidnap them, and then they wake up in some other fucking country. That's not the way you do things. So it's very unprofessional, you know? And I know professionalism because I served in the military, and I see how professionalism works. Okay, and I can recognize bullshit when I see it. Okay, and this is bullshit. These people are not really trained to do this job. They're just people for a paycheck. That's what that is. Cheap people to get a paycheck. Some of these people still waiting for their damn money, by the way. Okay, and you know, like the TSA, that's another group of people, you know, being mistreated, not getting paid. Okay. But TSA is a bit more professional in what they do than ICE, okay? And it's odd that the TSA would be neglected because that was something we needed to have supposedly after 9/11. And now all of a sudden they're treated like we don't need you anymore, okay? So how is that going to play out, you know, when terrorism retaliates against us for what we're doing? If we don't have a TSA that's functional, what are we going to do? Okay, I understand TSA people don't like that because it slows down the progress of getting people on the airplanes. But think about how we got there. Think about why we needed them in the first place, okay? You know, if you want a bigger crackdown on your travels, okay, continue to support Trump, and I guarantee you airports will quickly become breeding grounds for just fights, murders. No one's going to want to fly anymore after that. Okay? There ain't going to be enough TSA agents in the world to fucking stop what'll be coming through those fucking gates. Okay? That's what I'm saying. So, you know, like I said, it's just, these are people that are professional in what they do. Even if you don't like them, they're still professional. There's a procedure to what they do. And if they step outside that box of procedure, you know, they're slapped down. But ICE, we don't know where the box is. We don't understand where their boundaries are, because apparently Trump is okay with them beating the shit out of people or having the kids raped. A 3-year-old. You know, think about that. A fucking I mean, what the hell is that? I mean, why isn't people as outraged over that as we are with a potential nuclear war happening right now? You know, I just don't get it. I just don't. Okay, here's this other article from The Hill that was published yesterday, I think, yeah. Written by Ashley Fields, and it's entitled, House Democrat Says She'll Move to Impeach Pete Hegseth Over Iran War. Representative Yasmin Ansari from Arizona on Monday said she will introduce articles of impeachment against Defense Secretary Hegseth for war crimes following President Trump's planned strikes on Iran's bridges, desalination plants, and power plants. Quote, Trump is escalating a devastating illegal war, threatening massive war crimes and targeting civilian infrastructure in Iran. In the last 48 hours alone, the rhetoric has crossed every line. Pete Hegseth is complicit, unquote. Ansari, who is the child of Iranian immigrants, wrote in a post on social platform X, quote, I've called for the 25th Amendment and am introducing articles of impeachment against Hegseth, unquote, she added. Since the start of the strikes on February the 28th, the U.S. has bombed a school for girls in Minab and the key oil export hub on Karg Island. And Iran has accused the Trump administration of striking a freshwater desalination plant on Keshem Island. That's Q-E-S-H-M. I think I'm probably not saying it right, but that's Keshem. Quote, only Congress has the power to declare war, not a rogue president or his lackeys. Hegseth's reckless endangerment of U.S. service members and repeated war crimes, including bombing a school for girls in Minab, Iran, and willfully targeting civilian infrastructure, are grounds for impeachment and removal from office, unquote, Ansari said Monday. She's not the first to suggest Hegseth be ousted for war crimes. Representative Shri Thanedar, Democrat from Michigan, filed article of impeachment against the defense secretary in December, but has not forced a vote on the matter. Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, and other lawmakers have said plans to target civilian infrastructures in the country constitute clear war crimes. However, Hegseth says he supports Trump's plans to press ahead with full force despite allegations that the U.S. military is violating international laws. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what Congress says. They're going to do what they fucking do, and they're just daring you to go in there and do something about it. In the face of escalating war, Ansari has urged Trump's cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment, which provides for involuntary transfer of power to declare the president, quote, unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, unquote, making the vice president the acting president. Quote, the 25th Amendment exists for a reason. His cabinet should use it. The fate of U.S. troops, the Iranian people, and the very foundation of our global system are at stake, unquote, she said, according to Axios, who posted that. The first-term Democratic lawmaker has long argued that Trump and his subordinates have a lack of knowledge on the historical and political context involving foreign policy with Iran. Ansari slammed last year's strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities and strongly warned against U.S. efforts for regime change. Quote, I think any sort of U.S.-led military intervention or regime change would be a terrible mistake, unquote. Quote, I was genuinely terrified during the days Trump was making contradictory threats. One moment urging civilians in Tehran to evacuate, the next talking about regime change. and then suddenly calling for peace. That kind of unpredictability is dangerous, unquote, she added, noting an alternative group was looking to rise to power in the absence of an Ayatollah. Instead, she insisted the Iranian people need unrestricted access to the internet and advocacy for the release of political prisoners. However, the president argued the opposite during his Monday remarks, alleging the Iranian people are happy about the U.S. bombing campaign. Yeah, I'm sure they are. Quote, they don't hear bombs going off, they're upset, unquote, Trump said during a Monday press gaggle. Well, they want to hear bombs because they want to be free, and the only reason they're not out protesting, you know, that is because they were informed that if they do protest, like the wrestler and his friends, if they protest, they will be shot immediately, he added, referring to 19-year-old national wrestling champion Sayla Mohammadi, who was hanged for participating in a demonstration against the Iranian regime. First Lady Melania Trump also told reporters Monday that citizens support the war in Iran. Quote, all of this is happening for their future. They will be safe for years to come, she told the press during the annual. Oh, yeah, I'm sure this is all her opinion. Does she have an opinion about, does she have a brain at all? You know, or was this fed to her by Trump? Okay? Because who do you think dominates the other in a fucking house like that? So, yeah, I mean, it's, people are, you know, in the government trying to stand up to Trump. It'd be nice to see that these efforts will bring about something to stop what's happening, but my gut tells me it's not going to happen fast enough, folks. It really does. It really tells me it's not going to happen fast enough. And as I have said months and months and months ago, at the end of the day, after all the shit is said and done with Trump, it's going to be up to you and me and everybody else in America to be the ones to do the deed of getting rid of what's there to put back something better. It's not, Congress won't act soon enough, the Senate won't act soon enough. Okay, they have been very lacking up to this point, and I cannot say that I am expecting miracles to happen here, especially when it involves government, because usually with government, what you get is all the wrong things. But, you know, like I said, I don't have any faith that this 25th Amendment or this impeachment of Pete Hegseth is going to find any pay dirt. Okay, there's just the government is just too corrupted, people. And it started with allowing money into the system. It really did. And if you want to see anything happen quickly, you got to get the rich people behind it. You got to get them motivated to want change, because they're the ones that have the keys to our government now. You and I don't. Our votes don't mean nothing. They're constantly finding ways to dilute the power of the vote as we speak. Okay? So how is the government going to be selected? By who can pay the most. So that leaves us out, doesn't it? I mean, you know, our votes won't matter. It's going to be who counts them and who's got the most money. That's the way our country's going to be decided. So like I said, unless you can get the wealthy in this country behind the motivation to remove Trump and replace him with somebody else, they ain't going to do it, and we're not going to see change. You and I are going to be treated like fodder, cannon fodder. Okay? If we start the revolt, they're going to send out police and military to beat us down, to shut us up. They wouldn't do that with the wealthy, but they will do that to us. Okay? They'll try to control us. I mean, why do you think Trump is cutting into programs that people like us depend on to live in this country? Okay? Because he's trying to beat us down spiritually, emotionally. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to beat us down. And when a population is in that state of mind, they don't care anymore about anything. They don't try because they don't think they'll believe they can win. Now, when I tell you that I don't think anything is going to happen, it's not because I don't believe we can try and win, but I'm saying that if you want things to happen quick, because you got a man threatening nuclear war, it's going to have to be the wealthy people that are going to push for this 25th Amendment and an impeachment. Only they can really push the buttons to get that before he pushes the buttons. Us, we can be on the streets for months, screaming, hollering, carrying signs and all that shit, and it'll be just like what happened with Richard Nixon. You know, how long did people protest under him? You know, months and months. Okay? Well, we ain't got months and months and months here to stop what's going to happen. This has got to happen, you know, overnight here. The people, Congress has got to come together in an emergency fashion and do something. And who can push for that? These people that line their pockets with our money. You know, that's the only people that can do it. When you start threatening, oh, I'm going to give you money for any more fucking elections, all of a sudden now their opinion of Trump will change. Okay, that's how you fucking get the government to move nowadays. So forget about democracy. What I just explained to you right there is not democracy. That's whatever you want to call it, oligarchy, whatever. Okay, but democracy's gone, and the only way we can get it back is by regime change here at home. Okay, so as bad as things are, like I said, I just can't hold out false hope. Okay, I'm a person that I don't lie to myself or try to pretend that things can get better when I look at the odds of things, you know, the odds against it, the odds for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm a person that thinks like that. And so I can't believe that our Congress can actually do something when it's failed us so much already. And I just think that we don't have the leadership we need right now, enough good people to actually overpower the old people or the bad people that are in there doing all this crap. I just don't think we have that balance anymore. It's gone. So I don't know what that means for us, except that, you know, we're going to lose a lot of people. It's going to make the pandemic that we went through under the first Trump administration look like a fucking wonderful memory. Okay? And I don't say that to insult people that died during that. Okay? I don't. I'm just saying that what we could be looking at now could be the end for a lot of things. You know, I mean the end. Okay? Rubble. I'm speaking rubble here. Okay? We're certainly at this point in American history where maybe 250 years is all this country was meant to last. You know? Maybe that's as long as it can be. You know? Who knows? Anyway, I know it's a dire note there to end on here for today, but, you know, I had to put my 2 cents out there for whatever the hell it's worth, you know. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, and share. Keep your ears open for health issues, as always. And help each other out. There's people out there that need help, and you know, we got to work together. We are a community, folks. The United States is not just a country. We are a community, and we are supposed to be each other's neighbors, even if we got borders separating our states. I mean, we're still neighbors, because in space, you don't see borders, do you? It's just one big land. So we got to treat each other as we're all in a neighborhood. So I'll talk to you guys later. Take care, everybody.